The Rule of Beasts. (2084, 720, 13, 16, 21). To that Frisian Dreckface. We need to talk. Gruta Bente. 2084, 720, 13, 22, 48. From that Frisian Dreckface. I heard. Meet me at the show at 2. 2084, 720, 1359. Amsterdam West. Abandoned theater. Bente entered through the back door, the only door of the building big enough to let her through without having to fold her body through the frame. The guards nodded her through, then looked straight at the door again, treating her like air. She knew the way, moving through the few corridors to arrive at the old stage. Despite being early, there were already a handful of others, runners like her. Street Sams like her. Sharp minds, sharper bodies. She knew every one of them and their reputations. Having them all together like this, that's when security and cops start sweating. Jackdaw, looking at her with an impish grin, almost as tall as Bente, with horns to match and a frown stuck to his face. Slender Shade playing with his knives. The elf was pretending not to care and utterly failing at it. Lastly, Trigger, sitting next to a pillar and quiet enough that she almost wasn't noticeable. The dwarf was without her rifles, but the shape of her clothing revealed that she still had several guns hidden on her body. A varied group of razors ready to cut through anything in their way. She could have walked over and chatted, but it would have just been to waste time and calm her nerves. There was no point to that. So she stood still, waiting out the clock for the Frisian to arrive. He arrived mere seconds before the hour, 2 guards by his side and a shotgun on his back. He looked Bente in the eye with a nod, then the others, before speaking up. Okay, let's cut to the chase, because we all have an inkling of what's going on. Magic's dying, and I'm told the Corps are panicking. Not just the local boys, the big dogs, too. So this is no drill, no hoax. It's coming, and we can't do shit about it. Now, we don't know how this will end. Whether it will fully disappear, and whether it will return, but we do know magic will fail us. That provides our enemies with an opportunity, and us with the same. He paused for a short bit, and they all nodded. A quick back channel to show they all were in the loop, before he spoke up again. All right, so, popular will knows. They're already gathering guns and horses, preparing for a massive strike. If we scatter about, we're vulnerable. They'll hunt us down. So we're preparing a bunker. A hideout where we can all fight back and take them out. And while the mages hide with security by their side, I want you lot to go out and do a job for me. I'll provide deckers, riggers, anti-magic gear just in case, but no magic support whatsoever. No details until you come back and agree. Clear? 2084, 723, 1008, 41. From Silvertongue Devil. See, I fear you are on a popular list, so my safe houses will not suffice. I recommend contacting the Penots. They are making arrangements. This one time they care not for allegiances. Full neutrality, no matter what. 2084, 723, 21. Amsterdam West Safe House Complex.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Let me give you Match the introductory speech.
The Penots' soldier's voice boomed through the hall, interrupting people throwing suspicious glares at each other.
This place will be your home for the next month or so. First rule of Fight Club, there will be no fragging fighting. We do try to keep you away from your mortal enemies and split things up in factions as well, but within these walls, you're all allies and will behave as such.
Begrudging stares and frowns as the soldier paused to let that sink in.
All right, so you've either got private coffins or rooms with a few mates. But if you want to change arrangements, let us know. We're providing guns for those that need them. But if you go out and use them on your nemesis, we're putting your head on a pole as a warning for the rest. No killing unless it's an invader. Clear? You've got communications gear and a briefing file on how to act during an attack. We're running a drill tomorrow, so make sure you do your homework. Now get.
2084, 726. To the prison. I am tapped out. Some places remain, but most stuff is... 2084, 728, 1506, Amsterdam. Unknown location. The Frisian unnerved Rook. The guy carried his height with pure intimidation, an attitude that Rook normally tried to avoid. An above-average troll playing tough guy was a good way to get harassed by the police, so he made sure to play it nice and quiet. The Frisian had no such qualms, fully expecting people to move aside. If they didn't, well, that's where his violent reputation came in. So, the fact that the Frisian was meeting him today, Rook wasn't very happy about that. Made worse by the man being late. Everyone else was already here, spread out over various corners of the room. 5 raisers, 4 riggers, 3 deckers, all state-of-the-art. The total value of their gear and implants was closing in on an 8-digit number, and all of that was gathered here for a single job. All that was missing was the actual job. And with every ticking second, most people in the room visibly grew more nervous. Rook noted Bente was holding herself together quite well, looking stern as always. Then he picked up faint footsteps and saw her close her eyes and release a breath he hadn't realized she was holding. Everyone got ready to dive for cover and draw their weapons, in paranoia warranted but unneeded, as the Frisian walked in, blood on his sleeves. 4 of his soldiers followed, all save one with bandaged injuries. Without giving anyone a chance to respond, he threw a micro-projector onto the central table and dove straight into his explanation. 2084, 0728, 182314, to Worrywart. All clear still. Do you really need to keep wasting our time with this? If you insist on these constant check-ins, get your ass over here. Join us on patrol instead of micromanaging. Frag it. You're worse than a washed-up corpse slave. 2084, 728, 182720, from Worrywart. Spin it and do your damn job. And check in on schedule next time or I'm bombing the place instead. Anyone touches the vault, the boss will kill us all. So I'll try to get a head start for when you glitch us up. To Worrywart. All right. Sheesh. You got a worse temper than a crooked pawn on a friggin' bender. 2084, 728, 2015, Amsterdam. Alleys near Penrose Base. Trigger had lost track of how often she'd checked her guns, but she did a final check, a gun at a time, while she had another at hand in case they got attacked. She noticed Rook rolling his eyes at Jackdaw over it. Meanwhile, Shade was checking his own knives one by one. She had never realized just how many weapons that elf had on his body, both lethal and less lethal. Kruta Bente was on the line with the Deckers, leaning on a riot shield, while she did her impromptu leader work. Nobody had hesitated when she got chosen as the head of operations for this run by unanimous vote. She was nodding in response to whatever convo she was quietly having before switching to a full-team channel. Okay, security checked in, waiting for counter-trash talk. There it is. And security just responded with a dumb retort. All right, let's go before they realize they're now being jammed. 2084, 728, 2021, Amsterdam, Penrose Base. Frag! Move your hoops, keep up the cover fire! Don't let them go! A taser dart hit an exposed forehead and zapped the noisy guy into a sweet sleep. Two men turned and ran, only to groan as rubber bullets smashed into them. The massive, featureless corridor, usually perfect for transporting carts full of money or drugs, was nothing but a hazard for them now. The attacking trolls kept advancing, one holding a massive shield and the other using her as cover, his shotgun taking the guards out one by one. It only took a dozen more seconds before they had all been downed. One guard was barely clinging on when he saw them walk by him, the shotgunner switching to a breaching rifle and shooting a few holes into the vault door. The other troll then took off her belt, which transformed into a sword as large as she was. A good thing she hadn't used that in the fight, the guard thought as he saw her cut straight through the door just before he faded into unconsciousness. 2084-729, 5238. From management. Shelter in place. Shelter in place. This is not a drill. Popular will currently attempting to breach. Repeat. Shelter in place. Shelter in place. Popular will is invading. 2084-729, 59. Amsterdam West. Safe house complex. Intermittent bursts of gunfire were occasionally accompanied by fanatical screams, usually cut short very quickly. For the rest, the complex was eerily quiet, both its defenders and besiegers communicating through either sub-vocals or sign language. Most of the dumb raiders had served their goal as a distraction, their corpses littered about as a display of where security was the nastiest. What was left was Popular Will's cream of the crop, armed to the teeth and equipped with full body armor. One of the mess halls had turned into a war zone, several runners softly groaning behind cover, while allies treated their injuries. On the other side of the hall, a hand came from behind a wall holding a grenade. Before the owner could finish the throw, multiple shots rang out and the grenade was knocked out of the now severed hand. Mere seconds later, a loud explosion claimed multiple raider lives. A few buildings away, a troll opened his room's door as quietly as he could. He held a knife in his offhand, while his main was ready to draw if he spotted anyone on his way to the target. As he moved into the hallway, out of nowhere a head shot up towards his face, then slammed his head towards the wall. The last sound he heard was the crack of his own skull. The Frisian looked down on the body, pure contempt in his eyes, before his eyes shot toward one of the guards. Problem solved. Get the hacksaw. Not even awaiting the acknowledging nod, he and the rest of his camouflage troops moved on towards the next target, their footsteps soft, but their grip hard. 2084-729, 556-48. From management. Enemies deterred. Proceed with caution. I repeat, enemies deterred, but proceed with caution. Injured can report for medical care. Keep clear of uncleared bodies. Please ignore the new furniture. 2084-731, 336, Amsterdam South, flat, penthouse floor. You are not hearing me. Hang on. You are not hearing me. The Frisian stole your stuff. He broke into my vaults purely to rob you. So you need to get your act together. Take him out. The man on the other side of the table rolled his eyes. Pete, I heard you the first time. We already tried exactly that, and that cost us a small fortune in gear and men. He's holed up in his safe house, and he has half the Dutch underworld in there with him, all armed to the teeth and waiting for us to try again. We even had people in there, and they didn't do us any good. 0 survivors. Zilch. Nada. And you expect us to try again? Pete gnashed his teeth. Yes, because this is your fault. Because you were so busy preparing to attack him, you didn't do your part on my end, and they got into my vaults. Look, I'll sweeten the pot, okay? I have multiple clients in there. Any that don't make it out, you get their account. You could easily triple yours. The other man sighed heavily. Thing is, we now lack the manpower to get in there. Fortunately for us, we do still have some people with a significant amount of explosives at hand. They were earmarked for another project, but that no longer is an option. After all. And he paused for a moment as he nodded to his men standing behind Pete. There is no longer a vault for them to break into. Before Pete could process the remark, an iron wire slipped over his head and started putting pressure on his throat. As he struggled for his life, his past ally rose to his feet. Nothing personal, Pete. You did do business with mages, both for your security and as customers. We can't have that, letting collaborators getting away with it. So we wanted to take out the Frisian first and you second. Now we're simply reversing the order. Ignoring the choking sounds, the man walked toward the blinded window. He made a small gap to look through, letting him look in the direction of the Penroses' safe haven. Just a small gap. It sufficed. Within a second, the sniper round pierced the bullet-resistant window and his less resistant skull. 2084, 731, 1206. Amsterdam West Safe House Complex. The Frisian and his bodyguards were sitting at a table in the mess hall, trays full with food in front of them. Only 2 of them were eating, the other 2 waiting for their opportunity. An older man in a 3-piece suit walked up to them, doing his best to ignore their heads on a pole nearby as he spoke up in a polite tone. Frisian, I am glad with the hospitality and all, but I need to bother you with a question. I hear you robbed Sleazy Pete. I had a bunch of silver coin buckets stored there, and I was wondering. The Frisian wiped his mouth with a napkin before responding, his tone gruff but still fairly polite. Montella, you needn't worry. The new manager should be in contact once the dust settles. All I did was aid in a hostile takeover, so your coins are safe. I never needed physical pieces of silver. Virtual ones got the job done just fine.